God, country, and we the people on UST Party Radio.
Welcome back to UST Party Radio. God, country, and we the people with Kaz Taylor and Bill Gruber.
Amazingly, Americans are facing what was warned about in the Declaration of Independence adopted by Congress in 1776. It says, whenever any form of government becomes destructive in defying the consent of the governed, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. Now, AmeriSearch's Bill Federer is one of our contributors, and he's here to give us present-day insights of this remarkable document. Good morning, Bill. How are you today?
Hey, great to be with you.
You know, what do you think about that statement just read?
Well, that's a very eye-opening one, and there's some other statements in that same declaration. Here's one. He has, talking about the King of England, he has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. Well, let's see, multitude of new offices. We have 30 czars, and now they're supposed to hire 16,000 new IRS workers as part of this health care bill because somebody's got to pay for it, and they're going to squeeze hard. When you read the Declaration of Independence, it reflects a whole lot on what's going on today.
One of the comments in the Declaration of Independence, it says he has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. I thought, all these secret meetings that are going on, and the Republicans never know where these secret meetings are, so they're being fatigued as well. So a lot of these things that were said in the Declaration of Independence have an eerie validity for us today.
All right, here's another one. It says he has made judges dependent on his will alone for their tenure of their offices, the amount and payment of their salaries. In other words, the president wants to have people in these judgeship positions that simply push the Democrat agenda.
Wow. And one of the things that amazes me here is, what was that, 27, how big was the health care bill? How many thousands, a couple thousand pages, over 2,000 pages? And here we have, a single document, the Declaration of Independence, that I have on two small printout pages that you find on the Internet. And then, of course, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. They're small documents, but they're mighty, and today's legislature feels that they have to do with a multitude of words what they did in several pages before.
Well, it definitely does. It talks about pretended legislation, and that's what we see, where they totally disregard what the 60 senators necessary for a filibuster, and they just throw it out and ignore it and say, well, all we're going to do is just 51. It's like, okay, and then they do this reconciliation thing. It's like, okay, this is pretended legislation. And then, of course, the big line for imposing taxes on us without our consent.
Yes.
In other words, we're supposed to approve of this and not just have them push it through. But, one of the other things is the Declaration of Independence mentions God. It mentions a creator 4 times. Laws of nature and of nature's God, endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. And then it goes on to say, appealing to the supreme judge of the world. And when
guess who that is? Yes.
Right, and affirm reliance on the protection of divine providence.
Let's shift gears a little bit here. Many of the warnings and phrases within the Bill of Rights speak to the challenges America faces today. If you would, Bill, briefly set the stage of what was happening in America at the time of its writing.
I speak in a lot of schools. I try to make it simple. I have the kids hold up a fist in one hand and say concentrated power, then an open palm in the other hand with their fingers apart and say separated power. Then I go back to the fist. In other words, a monarch, a fist, has concentrated power. From the beginning of time, there's about 6,000 years of recorded human history. You get any world civilization textbook, open it to chapter 1, starts with Egyptian hieroglyphics and Sumerian cuneiform on clay tablets about 4,000 BC. We're 2080, that's 6,000 years. Well, during that time, the default setting for human government was monarchy. One person, like gravity, ends up with the power. We call them pharaohs, monarchs, sultans,
right.
Kaisers, Caesars, czars.
And we fast forward to the days in 1776. That person happened to be the King of England, or the King of Great Britain, and he was demonstrating that power, and thus the Declaration of Independence. So here we are in 2010, and we free citizens sense that same grip or grasp coming around us, and we don't know what to do. What word of wisdom do you have for us that was really applicable to the Founding Fathers that could be appropriate for us today, Bill Federer?
Well, we went from the concentrated powers of the monarch, and we have to realize that we had this unique window in history where, because of the 3,000-mile ocean between us and our monarch, we had this chance to experiment with self-government, where we made the people the king and the politicians the servants. You hire them and fire them, vote them in, vote them out. We separated power into three branches. We pulled those magnets apart, executive, legislative, and judicial. We separated federal to state level. And then to top it off, we tied this Frankenstein up with 10 handcuffs before we threw the switch. The first 10 amendments limit the federal government. It's supposed to, our founders did not like strong centralized government. Well,
right.
Something happened after every crisis. We've seen a reconcentration of power. Civil War. Great that Lincoln ended slavery, but he concentrated power in the federal government. Woodrow Wilson, Franklin Roosevelt concentrated power in the federal government. Lyndon Johnson with his Great Society poverty war, and then even President Bush concentrated power. Now it's been handed to President Obama. It's been put on steroids, exponential curve. Now it's taking over car companies, banks, and life and death decisions of every person's health care in the nation. We've returned to the monarch situation.
Here, Congress and the President are sworn to protect the Constitution from enemies, foreign and domestic, but it seems like that the Constitution is coming under attack within our own government. Any thoughts on that?
Right. It's a creative twisting of the 14th Amendment and the General Welfare Clause, and basically the 14th Amendment was passed in 1868, and that became the box of chocolates that the federal government began to say, hey, let's reinterpret. The thing is, they can't reinterpret the 9th and 10th Amendments. Why? Well, read them. It says all powers not specifically delegated to the federal government remain to the states and the people respectively. So we didn't give them power, and they over health care and over education of our kids and so forth.
But they're taking it. We're talking with Bill Federer, Amerisearch, and the American Minute throughout the United States. Check out a radio program, and you'll probably hear the American Minute.
I'm not sure he can do it in a minute.
Well, we're going to give him 2 minutes here. We've got 2 minutes left in this segment, Bill Federer. Would you give us some consolation for those of us who are law-abiding citizens and concerned about the Constitution, where we go from here? You've got 2 minutes, which is a minute more than your American Minute. We're doubling your time.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease. Senator Dirksen of Illinois said, when I feel the heat, I see the light. So the only response that we have is put pressure on them. Politicians are experts at one thing, getting elected. They could come from any background, but that's what they're good at, and that's all they care about, other than some really good ones. But the majority of them, that's their main goal, is to get reelected. And so we need to put pressure and heat, and countries controlled by laws. Laws are controlled by politicians. Politicians are controlled by voters. Voters are controlled by public opinion. You can't vote for what you don't know about, and the only thing you know is what the media tells you. Public opinion is controlled by media and education. And like in a home, it doesn't take little Johnny long to realize, well, Daddy's got the final say, but I got to go through Mommy to get to Daddy, or I got to nag Big Sister, and then she'll nag Mommy, and then go to Daddy. It's like if a little kid can figure out how the power sits and how to get his way,
we should be able to.
Yeah, we've got a minute and a half now, and where do we as concerned citizens and law-abiding citizens go from here, Bill?
One of the things, ignorance paralyzes, knowledge gives confidence. As long as we're ignorant of our founding principles, as long as we're ignorant, we sit back and let the ACLU... the founder of the ACLU, Roger Baldwin, said that his goal for America was communism.
Wow.
And socialism and public ownership of property and means of wealth. And so when we're ignorant of our founding principles, we sit back and let the other side take over. When we educate ourselves, we get confidence. And so that's why I've written all these different books. And that's why you guys...
We can find out about them where, Bill? Where can we find out about those?
AmericanMinute.com. AmericanMinute.com.
Bill Federer, you're always a voice of wisdom. We really appreciate you on this show as an ongoing contributor.
It's great to have him back. And as we broadcast from WSRadio.com, the worldwide leader in Internet talk.